I mean, you got to adapt or die in business. You will die in business if you don't adapt. If you don't change, if you don't shift, if you don't make a difference, if you don't do something that you weren't doing yesterday, if you're not doing something today, then you're going to die. But you also have to have fundamentals and foundation to go along with that adaptation. If you're just adapting and you're just running amok in a chaos and into some spiral, ADD direction, then it doesn't do anything for you. Well, I think the most common mistakes made by beginning investors is they have a very small box of experience. And so they get very excited when something seems exciting. Or they just hand their money over and they just trust the wrong people, right? And so for investors, if they know what the rules of the game are, they can go and succeed. But the challenge is lots of times they're taught to go, like I was speaking at the NBA G League. They did this financial prosperity for all their existing and new players. And as I was talking with them, they spend 25 years, 18 years, 16 years becoming a professional athlete. And then suddenly they're said, here's millions of dollars. You need to go be a professional, financial athlete like that and make these important, difficult decisions. And people just aren't ready for that. And they need to accept that they're not ready and then get the knowledge, get the education to make good decisions. And a financial advisor who's never been wealthy isn't a person to trust your money to. You have to make sure you're making your own decisions for you and yourself by the rules, by the guidelines, by the blueprint. And that's what Money Shackles is it's a blueprint for people so that they can have checklists, so they can have answers, so they can have the background. And if they read that, they're going to have a healthy relationship with money and a strong foundation in order to make financial decisions. And that's not what I had. And so I wanted other people to be able to have that. My sons already have an IRA, right? My sons already own their first piece of property and they're 7 and 8 years old. My sons get a salary, so I pay less in taxes. They don't teach you that by paying the right amount of taxes. It's not about more or less. By paying the right amount, right? You're going to have more money to make investments. They don't teach you about being able to budget and have your expenses laid out correctly. I've met so many high-income professionals that have no more money than somebody who's making a lot less money because they're living one financial disaster away from, complete financial ruin because they haven't understood, right, how to create the financial gap. And the financial gap creates freedom. How do you create passive income? Like everybody wants money, right? But how do you do that in a way that it becomes productive for you? And people constantly are making those financial mistakes because lots of times financial wealth is passed down knowledge generationally. And if you don't have that, then you need to go and obtain that. I think there's a massive boom coming in 2025. If people don't act right now, they're not going to get the same good prices on housing that they're going to get next year. Next year, we're going to see the run up because the challenge is most Americans buy on payment. They don't buy on price. And so they're buying on how much they can afford monthly. The reality is, though, if you're going to build wealth, you want to get the best price possible, right? And then be able to manage payment effectively because the equity is created from lower buy, higher sell. And so we're going to be in a place right now, if you want to buy, you buy now. And a lot of Americans don't realize that, like, there's so many government programs, so many different things, like 1%, 3% down. So a $500,000 home, right, they might only have to pay $15,000 down, and they don't realize how little they might be able to do that, right? And there's a lot of programs right there. Like, people can be out there and they can co-buy with somebody else, right? There's a lot of options with potential, people who want to own homes, buy homes. Affordable housing is huge. Going to be the next big wave, right? We have this AI wave right now with financial investing that's hot and sexy, but we're going to go a little old school in 25, 26. AI is still going to exist. Crypto is still going to exist, but it's going to go a little old school. Affordable housing is the conversation into 25, into 26. It's going to be the biggest financial, right, buildup we've ever seen in our lifetime, because you know what they've been doing. I call it the deep state, right? You know what they've been doing the last 3 to 5 years. What have they been doing? They've been land grabbing. They've been gobbling it up. They've been getting all the assets they can get, so they're ready to go. If you weren't paying attention, a few years ago, Warren Buffett started taking equity positions, right, in different home builders and different housing builders. And so if you're paying attention to these things, I've just been blessed from God to recognize pattern and have this crazy gift with pattern recognition. And so the patterns are coming again. If you go back and watch our YouTube videos for the last 5 years, I predicted every financial change, every financial thing, even in the pandemic, it was spot on. And it's this ability to take what happened 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago, take those financial conditions, put them on present day market conditions, and then apply, right? AI, apply crypto, apply interest rates, and then make accurate predictions. And so we're going into a housing boom here into 25 and into 26. And it's the things you do right now that's going to allow you to take advantage. If you wait to 25, 26, you're going to miss the bubble. I told everybody a few years ago, get out of office REITs. They're buying and selling from each other. Get out, get out, get out, get out. You know, a few years ago, I told people get out of crypto. Then I told them to get into crypto, and we nailed it. Right now, if you can get your money right and at a good price into real estate right now, you're at that part of the curve where you got to buy. We're there, right? We're there. So from here, it's going to springboard. And both candidates running for president have massive, right, real estate plans. And it might be different from each other, but both are going to cause a real estate boom because they know it's the only way to save the economy right now. The economy's in a tailspin, and what you need is a life bridge. You need that extension, right? You need that rope to be given to you to pull you through this part of it. And right now, real estate's the foundation. You started seeing institutions, big money, moving their money into real estate 2-3 years ago because they knew what was coming right now, and they started moving it in there because that's where they store it, so that when we come out, they get all the assets. Yeah, I mean, so we started buying income-producing farms in 2020. So we purchased, our first one in 2020, and then we steadily added, right, more acres and more acres, right? We have farms in Idaho, Arkansas, and Tennessee. I found this to be a great asset. To me, Americans investing in American land, Americans owning American land is huge. And it's interesting because I've seen the price of land go like this, right, the last couple years, but you see where my head's going, right? It is doing this, but it's doing this as it's going forward because the land grab in America is on its way, right? The billionaires are grabbing land. The farmers who can't afford to run their farms the way they want to because they need to invest in technology. They need to invest in equipment, right? They have to have this capital, and they're scared to go and make those investments. And so now you have the ability to buy something, be able to operate it, and be able to make great income. What we've been able to do is invest in infrastructure. Something like a pivot allows you to use, 1/5 less water, right, on a farm than if you don't have a pivot on it. And so these are the kind of things that allowed us to produce more acres of irrigation, more acres of income into it. But then, we also vertically stack. We bought a cattle auction, right, to go along with our farms. These are things that we kind of vertically enter. Yeah, but I love income producing farms. I love American land. I started the land grab ourselves as an investment company a few years ago. We're actually getting ready to just close on a huge piece of land that we'll release publicly in the next week. But I'm excited about that. There's just a lot of good things in land right now. There is programs out there. Sometimes you're going to do some private equity, right? You're going to do private lending sometimes when it comes to land. But what we're waiting for, these interest rates will free up lending across the board in America. Here's the thing: a lot of people don't understand is the reason lending gets tight in America is because when they jack up interest rates, people in Wall Street stop buying the loans. And so what they do is banks go out and make loans, or lenders go out and make loans, and then they sell those notes, they sell those loans into what's called a secondary market, another market on Wall Street, right? And so that Wall Street gobbles that stuff up. But what Wall Street does is when interest rates, right, are where they are and there's instability and they're not sure what's going to go on, they stop buying the notes and loans. But now that the Fed has made a strong statement, they've reduced interest rates, then Wall Street starts buying loans, starts buying notes, right? Because if the interest rate's at 5%, but they can buy notes and loans that have a 7 or 8% interest rate on it, then they're making that margin gap. They're making that money in Wall Street. And so they're going to buy notes. It frees up ag lending and agricultural lending, which is great. Then one of the challenges with agricultural lending from a Fed standpoint is they make people, you've had to have operated a farm for X number of years, and they don't make it super easy, right, for a newbie beginner to buy farms. That's why for us, being an aggregator, right, we're able to co-invest. I call it fractionalized ownership. When people invest in our companies with us, like they become a fractionalized owner with us, and I love that. Now I said, if you're looking at us, read the offering circulars. We have different offerings that are out there. All investments have risk. I wasn't trying to do that on here, but just in case, so. And past performance doesn't indicate future performance, but hey, those things are out there. So I think Texas and Florida are going to do really well, but I think we need to wait a little bit to see what happens, in this election to see. Texas and Florida are going to grow no matter what. Because here's the thing, there's going to be disenfranchised from this election no matter what. And if the right wins, you're going to get people from the left moving. If the left wins, you're going to get people from the right moving, and we're going to pay attention to the migration a little bit. But here's the thing about Texas and Florida is they're strong. right? They have good economies, they have good markets, they have good real estate. They're not overinflated in price as you see in some parts of the country, and they're great places to live. And frankly, for me, at the end of the day, no income taxes is amazing, right? No state income taxes is incredible. For me, moving to Florida, 11% less in income taxes per year. Moving to Texas, you're going to have less, income taxes every single year. Those are great reasons to buy in those states. I think you're going to see booms in those states, and you're going to see booms in some other states with similar rules and similar laws. AI is going to be huge, right? AI trading, AI is going to be a huge part of it. You have to really get educated on it, though, because if you're not educated on it, you're going to make some bad decisions. You're going to get this like fishing line, right, with a lure and bait is going to be thrown out there in AI. But the challenge is there's a ton of AI companies that are going to go out of business. And so you want to be looking at revenue companies that have existing revenue, right? Looking at pre-revenue AI companies is very dangerous because there's going to be thousands and thousands of them. And you're going to get, but in your box, you're going to see like a few of them, right? And then you're going to get excited by one of them. But what you want to look at is companies that already are AI companies that are producing income. If they're not producing income, then take a step back. Pre-revenue AI is not for the average investor. I'd really be looking at that. I think you're going to see crypto continue to raise and grow. I think you're going to see a big push back into the metaverse into late into 25, the second half of 25. But I don't think anything's going to surpass affordable housing and real estate in the next 18 months. I just think that's what the need is. And when the economy has a need, like a really strong need, it doesn't matter how sexy something else is, that strong need that must be filled is going to end up getting filled. And it builds up and it builds up and it builds up, and every week, every month, every year it compounds. Yeah, I am super excited. So we have a lot of the largest crowdfunding platforms in America that have been on the podcast recently, which is pretty cool. And these are platforms where people are seeking seed capital for the businesses to grow their businesses. We're interviewing them, and they're talking about how that works. Another big part that we're doing is we've had a lot of good companies that are raising capital, that are wanting to bring investors in on the podcast that we're interviewing, right? And for the most part, we're not compensated by these companies. We're not getting anything from them. I'm just interviewing them, and I'm going through like, what is my checklist, right? And I've seen everything from clean energy companies to environmental companies to your hardcore real estate companies, to your energy that's on Meso Robotics, which is AI robotics company for commercial kitchens. So so that you're like McDonald's, instead of, what's really difficult in the restaurant industry is low cost labor right now is very hard to find. And so robotics, replacing some of those things. And then you actually have a higher income person overseeing those robotics, making the kitchens work and operate. So, I mean, we're constantly having new companies on. I'm interviewing them. I'm getting nitty gritty. Like, what's your revenue at? What's your product? What's your profit margin? How are we creating this? How's the marketplace? What's your problems? What are you facing? What are the challenges? Don't tell me everything Sundays and roses, because it's not in business, right? I tell my kids that all the time. They're like, Dad, why are you firm with this? I said, because I love you, and life's not always easy or fair. I mean, you got to adapt or die in business. You will die in business if you don't adapt. If you don't change, if you don't shift, if you don't make a difference, if you don't do something that you weren't doing yesterday, if you're not doing something today, then you're going to die. But you also have to have fundamentals and foundation to go along with that adaptation. If you're just adapting and you're just running amok into chaos and into some spiraled, ADD direction, then it doesn't do anything for you. But if you have a strong foundation and you're willing to adapt and you're willing to move, then you can succeed in business. And for me, I'm looking for companies that have that adaptability, the willingness to change, the willingness to do different. I like the company that I can stare in the face and they're like, look, we faced this, dark nightmare, and here's how we faced it, and here's how we persevered. Anyone who's never faced a dark nightmare, I don't know how tough you are. And I need toughness in my founders.